I would tell you that there's 3 people involved. I would tell you that one person has dreadlocks. I will tell you that my niece got in a car to sit with the parties, and it wound up being a drive-off situation. Gabby is best friends with him. I said she was jealous. I said she was having fucking Keon. I said, and she knew what Keon was about to do to Kada because Keon asked her, hush, because Keon asked her.
So he calls me and he asks me if I know Kada. And I'm like, yeah, like, I know Kada. And he's like, oh yeah, I noticed that she lives really close to you.
Before the body was found, before the arrest, before anyone knew what really happened to Kada Scott, her aunt went on social media and made a prediction. She said 3 people were involved. She said one had dreadlocks. And she said there was a jealous female in the mix. Most people didn't pay attention to that last part. I mean, why would they? The police had just arrested 21-year-old Keon King for kidnapping. Everyone assumed he acted alone. But then, 2 weeks after Kada vanished, her body was discovered in a shallow grave behind an abandoned school in Philadelphia. And that's when the internet started digging. That's when a name started circulating. A girl named Gabby. And suddenly, that prediction about a jealous female didn't sound so crazy anymore. What started as a missing person case turned into something way messier. Because when you peel back the layers on this story, you find text messages that don't make sense, phone calls that raise questions, and 2 young women who somehow knew Kada was dead before the rest of us did. So buckle up, because this case is about to get real complicated real fast. Let me give you the basics real quick so you're not lost. Kada Scott, 23 years old, Penn State graduate, went missing October 4th, 2025, after leaving her shift at a nursing home in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia. Her car was still at work. Her phone went dead. Her family reported her missing the next day. And for 2 weeks, hundreds of people searched for her. The FBI got involved. The community showed up. Her family was posting everywhere, begging for information. And then, October 18th, an anonymous caller told police to go back to Ada Lewis Middle School, an abandoned building they'd already searched, and said, quote, "They missed her." Police found Kada's body in a shallow grave. DNA confirmed it was her, 99.9% matched to her parents. Keon King, who'd already been arrested for her kidnapping, is now facing additional charges including arson and conspiracy. But here's where it gets interesting. Before any of this came out, Kada's aunt made that prediction. So let's hear what she said.
So update on my niece Kada Scott. Y'all know I'm spiritual, but y'all know I'm a 2-headed doctor. Treater, seer, all above. To give you an update, of course, this particular case that I solve unsolved cases all the time before it hits the authorities, the news, things of that sort, and people revert back to my page like, oh my gosh, you were right, da-da-da-da. Update on my niece. I don't want to say too many things that I know what is happening right now, based out of respect for the family. For me, I understand more better because of who I am and how I carry in the spirit world, things of that sort. I will tell you this. My niece is still in the area of between the job and the park. That's what I will tell you. I would tell you that there's 3 people involved. I would tell you that one person has dreadlocks. I would tell you that the job does know what something is going on with it. I will tell you that my niece got in a car to sit with the parties, and it wound up being a drive-off situation into an argument. It is not sexually that's involved. It is a lot of, assault and things of that sort, and, that led to, it's a transition situation. So, that's the update. So if you ever want to have updates on what's going on with my niece or my son's cousin, then yeah, here's my page. And we will find Kada. And her spirit is very strong. And, you know, continue to pray for the family. I shield my son and protect my son. And allow spirit to do what it does. I will elaborate on this more once the case is resolved, because I feel like it's more appropriate. But that's just enough for now. Ashay?
All right, so Aunt Bree is out here saying she's a seer, a two-headed doctor, all that spiritual stuff. And look, I'm not here to debate whether psychic abilities are real or not. What I am here to say is that she called some pretty specific details. 3 people involved, dreadlocks, between the job and the park, and a jealous female. Now, was she right about everything? We don't know yet, because police haven't confirmed an accomplice. But that jealous female comment? That's what we're going to focus on, because that's where this story goes from a straightforward kidnapping case to a whole mess of, wait, what? The police arrested Keon King. Let's hear what they had to say about him before the body was found, back when Kada was still just missing.
All right. Good morning. Just want to give you an update on the disappearance of Kada Scott, which occurred on October 4th, 11 days ago. Going to provide you an update in terms of an individual that is currently in custody for his involvement in the disappearance of Ms. Scott. However, still a lot of work needs to be done. And so just want to make that very clear as to why we are here and the information that you will receive. Essentially letting you know how we have gotten here, but more so the public's help that we need right now. The public has been very, very helpful thus far in providing a lot of information, which the investigators have been able to track down a lot of the leads, which has helped us get to this point here. But as I said, a lot of work still to be done. The number one priority is locating Ms. Scott. I just want to make that very clear. And so while we are at this stage of this now, that's our priority. And so we will ask for your help in locating this vehicle, which you'll get a little more information. It's a 1999 metallic gold Toyota Camry with a Pennsylvania tag of MSX0797. But we need to know where this car is. We need to find this car. Making this very clear, it's not to just focus on the northwest section of the city of Philadelphia. This car has traversed through the entire city. And so I want that to be clear, that every neighborhood, every person listening to this, whether you're in North Philly, South Philly, Southwest, Northwest, please open your eyes and see if you locate this car, or if you have seen this car, please contact us and give us that information. The second part of this is the individual that Deputy Commissioner Venor will provide his information very shortly. Want folks to understand this person has a little bit of a pattern of this type of history. And so we want to encourage anyone that may have been involved with this individual, anyone that may know this individual, please, at this point in time, make that phone call. Feel comfortable enough to call us and let us know if you have any information regarding this person, regarding any interaction you've had with this individual. If you have been a victim of any crime regarding this individual, I want you to understand now is the time to make that phone call and let us know. Give us that information so that we can continue on. Again, just want to make it very clear that a lot of work has been done, starting off with Northwest Detective Division, and then this case shifting over to homicide, making it very clear that the case was shifted to homicide because we have the most experienced investigators in our homicide unit. They have the most experience dealing with all types of investigations. They also have the most resources available to them. And so we have the hopes that we are still treating this as if Ms. Scott is still alive. And that's why we want the public's help in trying to locate every single piece of this. But I just wanted to make that clear because I know there's been some reports once it shifted over to homicide, folks not understanding the why. And so that's the reason behind that. At this point in time, again, appreciate the help that we've gotten. I want to turn everything over to Deputy Venor to go into more details about the individual that has been taken into custody and some other pertinent facts of the investigation.
All right, good morning. Just to reiterate what the Commissioner Stanford said, we've been investigating this since Saturday, October 4th in the evening, the last time Kada Scott was seen at her place of work up in Mount Airy area. Our evidence that we followed, and we did involve a lot of investigators on this, led us to several places, that digital evidence, and as everyone knows, we searched a very large area up in the Aubrey Arboretum, and we came up really with negative results. After that time, we asked the Homicide Division, the FBI Violent Crime Task Force to enter into the investigation to assist. All right, and we continued our search, trying to track Ms. Scott's whereabouts along with anybody she may have encountered during that time. Our evidence is pretty clear that she was in communication with an individual. That individual appears to meet her very shortly after she leaves her place of work. And very shortly after that, she disappears off of the footprint. We have a lot of digital evidence, video and other, which provides us with this individual by the name of Keon, K-E-O-N, King, K-I-N-G. We believe this individual, and through our evidence, we were able to charge this individual. The district attorney was able to charge the individual. You'll hear from them shortly with kidnapping at this point. It's very important to know we're not done our investigation. We need to find Ms. Scott, figure out where she is, or what may have happened to her to cause her to completely disappear from all her items, her phone, her Instagram, social media sites, and everywhere else, work. She left her car at that location. So it's very important that this individual, who does have prior history of being arrested, especially for this very same thing, this year was charged with kidnapping another female acquaintance. That case was dismissed from court, and I'll explain it. It's going to be refiled now as we're going to move forward to attempt. So he's being really charged with 2 cases today of kidnapping, and in that case it involves assaults that occurred during the kidnapping. So this is a pattern of behavior. That vehicle that you've seen, the Toyota Camry, was his vehicle. All right, that vehicle is not recovered. All right, some of the stuff he did as we attempted to find him was he got rid of things like the car, phone. We're not able to find things that he was using. He had an address in Southwest Philadelphia. He had other addresses that it looks like he's not using anymore. So he attempted to elude us for some time. He did come in last night. He's here being processed, but there's a lot of questions we still have. So we're asking the public's help. We need it more than ever. This car, you'll see a better picture of it. We sent it to you digitally. It's a gold colored Camry, 1999. It has heavy front end damage on the left front bumper. All right, that's being described that way several times. We know it's been in the Mount Airy area. We have photos of it in Center City. We have pictures of it in Grace Ferry area and in Southwest Philadelphia. So it's possible that it could be anywhere. It could be outside the city. So if somebody sees this, thinks they know where this car is, it's very possible it doesn't have this tag on it anymore. So if you see a car like it, we're urging you to call police, have it investigated. Any information on this, you can call our tip line, 215-686-TIPS, 8477, or the Homicide Division directly, and give that information. All right, I'm going to turn things over to ADA Teslowski, who could speak a little more about the charges and potentially other charges that he's facing.
Okay, so let me make sure I got this right. Keon King had already been arrested earlier that same year for kidnapping and strangling a different woman. Those charges got dropped because the victim didn't show up to court. He posted bail and walked free. And then, just months later, he's being charged with kidnapping another woman who ends up dead. And the cops are out here asking if anyone else has been victimized by this man, because apparently they think there might be a pattern. You think? But here's what caught my attention in that press conference. They said Kada knew Keon. They were in communication. He met her right after she left work, and then she disappeared. So this wasn't a random stranger abduction. They had some kind of connection. And that's where a girl named Gabby enters the chat. Because Gabby went on TikTok to explain her connection to this case. And baby, when I tell you this explanation raised more questions than it answered. Let's just watch what she said. This is going to be a long video, so I'm going to let her tell the whole story herself, and then we'll talk about it. Pay attention to the timeline she gives, because that's where things start looking real funny.
Hi, my name is Gabby, and I'm going to be discussing some of the misinformations that are going around in the internet regarding me and the Kada Scott situation. So if you are unaware, Kada Scott is a girl that went missing in Philadelphia on October 4th. So I did know Keon. He was my friend. I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was also the local pharmacist. Now, me and my best friend, we were also mutual friends with Keon. He was our pharmacist. So one day Keon calls me, and keep in mind, I am in school, I am in Maryland, and he will usually just call me, just to check up and talk. So he calls me and he asks me if I know Kada. And I'm like, yeah, I know Kada. And he's like, oh yeah, I noticed that she lives really close to you. I'm like, yeah, she lived right in the back of me. And I'm not thinking nothing of it because he usually calls me and, we just be chatting. He'll call me about the people that be around because he is the pharmacist. I live in the neighborhood and he be in my neighborhood. So we hang up the phone and that was that. We were only on the phone for 29 seconds. So you can see that this is the day that he called me, and this was before Kada went missing. And we were only on the phone for 29 seconds. Also, I know that his name says Elliot in my phone. That's just what we call him. So a couple of days after that, my best friend calls me and, we're just talking about life. And I mentioned to her how Keon brought up Kada to me. I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm like, oh yeah, he was probably trying to flirt with her. He's probably trying to get at her. Mind you, me and my best friend, we know Kada because we grew up with her little sister. Now, we didn't know Kada personally because, again, we grew up with her little sister. We were around 12, 11 years old. Kada, she was much older than us, so we didn't really talk to her. So my best friend was like, oh yeah, he probably thought she was cute, and that was that. So right here is the day that I called my best friend and told her that, Keon was trying to get at Kada. This is before she went missing. So a couple days, maybe a week after that, it is reported on October 4th that Kada is missing. So keep in mind, I am in Maryland, so I'm not really into all the Philadelphia news that be going on. So I'm not knowing that Kada is missing until my best friend sends me a text and says that Kada is missing. So this is the day that my best friend tells me that Kada is missing on October 9th. So I'm in my friend's dorm and I call Keon, and it's a lot of music and a lot going on in the background. So I go somewhere that's quiet and I tell him, Keon, Kada is missing, that girl, she's missing. So he was like, what? And then after that, the phone just hung up. So here you can see that I called Keon and we were on the phone for 2 minutes. So you have to keep in mind, this was my friend, okay? I did not think that he could be capable of anything like this. In my head, I'm just thinking, there's no way in the world he could have did something like this. There's no way in the world. So then a couple of days after that, my mom sends me a screenshot of Keon turning himself in for the kidnapping of Kada. So this is my mom sending me the article, and she was distraught to say the least. And I know she said that he was a random person, but she says this about all my friends. So me and my best friend, we get on the phone and we're talking about the situation. We're just saying how this is just crazy. This is the call of me and her talking about it. Now, this is all happening around the time that I'm taking my midterms. So I'm really just trying to keep my head on the books. And I wasn't really trying to let this stress me out. So I kind of just let it go. He turned himself in. It's not really much to say or do anymore. So a couple days after that, me and my best friend get on the phone and we're basically just, talking about the Kada situation. And she says that she thinks that I should call the cops. So she was basically saying that she thinks that I should call the cops and tell them that Keon was, asking about Kada. Now, at the time in my head, I'm thinking that there was no reason to call the cops. He already turned himself in, and I felt like it would be kind of a waste of time to tell them that the guy that they already have in custody, called me and was asking about the girl. And me personally, I'm not a cop caller. Like I don't call the cops. That's just the way that I grew up. That's what I was around. They will always tell me, you don't call the cops. So I just felt like, the information that I had and the fact that, I'm just not really a cop caller, it wouldn't make sense for me to call the cops. So then my best friend tells me, well, if you won't call the cops and tell them, then I will. And then she basically tells me that she doesn't want to be friends with me anymore because I won't call the cops. And I told her, that's completely fine. I just don't want any involvement. So then we hung up the phone, and then I believe she called me again with the police on the other line. So you can see, I told her, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to the cops. And yeah. Now, I can see how this could be cruel, and I do take accountability for that. So then, a couple of days later after that, I get sent a link on Instagram. And the link was basically my best friend going live, just talking about the situation, saying how I was weird for not going to the cops. And people in the comments were just coming up with their own narratives about the story. And it just got way out of hand, and it just spiraled. So you can see somebody sent me the link of the live, and still to this day, I have not watched the full entire live. Then people just started asking, who is Gabby? What's the connection? And, she told people that I was in Maryland for school, and it was just a whole entire thing. So, of course, I was angry and I was confused because what is going on? So I text her, I tell her that, that was weird. And yeah. Then I started seeing posts of people saying that they think that I set Kada up, and that why wouldn't I go to the cops, and that I was just suspicious and all of this stuff. And this was never the case. So I do end up contacting the authorities after I seen people just making up crazy stuff about me and the situation. They cut me off. They tell me that they already know what's going on, that they have a close eye on the social media. And they also tell me that my friend did come forth with the information, and they told her that there was nothing that they can do, that the information that she bought them was useless information because they already had Keon in custody, and it was just nothing for them to do with this information. They told me to contact them only if I had anything that could lead to finding Kada, because that is their main priority. Now, I do believe that the person in the live was just kind of taking what I told her and running with it and just spicing it up to make it seem like something that it wasn't, for, I don't know, maybe views. People were saying that, she was walking around and showing what stores Kada would go to, where she would walk her dog, and just stuff like that. I also had one of our mutual friends come to me, and he told me that she told him that we knew Kada our whole lives and we grew up with her, which wasn't the case because we grew up with her little sister. Now, I do think that the person in the live was taking what I told them and kind of just running with it and spicing it up to make it seem like it was way bigger than what it was. And I basically think this because I had a mutual friend that came to me and said that she came to them and told them that we knew Kada our whole life and that we grew up with Kada, when that wasn't the case. We grew up with her little sister. My prayers go out to Kada and her family, and I hope that she can make a safe return home.
Okay. Let me collect my thoughts here because there's a lot to unpack. So first of all, Gabby says Keon was the local pharmacist, and she'd known him for 4 to 5 years. Now, when she says pharmacist, she doesn't mean someone wearing a white coat at Walgreens asking if you want the name brand or generic. She means the kind of pharmacist who operates strictly on a cash basis and whose inventory comes in Ziploc bags instead of prescription bottles. We clear on that? Good. So Gabby's been doing business with this man for 5 years, half a decade. That's not some casual acquaintance. That's an established relationship. You don't stay connected to your pharmaceutical provider for that long unless you've got regular contact. And here's what kills me. She's acting like, because they were only on the phone for 29 seconds when he asked about Kada, that means it was no big deal. Girl, 29 seconds is just enough time to say, hey, you know that girl Kada? Where she live at? And hang up. That's not a casual conversation. That's not small talk. That's an information gathering mission, disguised as a friendly check-in. And you didn't think nothing of it? Your supplier, someone whose whole business is built on being paranoid and careful, is calling you asking for a random woman's home address. And you just gave it up like you were giving directions to the grocery store. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. Kada goes missing October 4th. Gabby's friend tells her on October 9th. And what does Gabby do? She calls Keon to let him know Kada's missing. They're on the phone for 2 minutes. And then it just hangs up. Now, Gabby says she was telling him, because they were all friends or whatever. But here's my question. If you just told this man that the woman he asked about is now missing and the phone suddenly disconnects, don't you maybe think that's weird? Don't you maybe wonder why he hung up so quick? And then, this is where I really start having issues. Her best friend is begging her to call the police. Her friend is saying, you need to tell them what you know. And Gabby's response is, nah, I'm not a cop caller. That's how I was raised. Listen. I understand that in certain communities there's a real and justified distrust of law enforcement. I understand that snitching can have consequences. I'm not naive to that reality. But there's a difference between not calling the cops because your neighbor is doing their thing on the corner and not calling the cops when a kidnapper asks you where his victim lives. Those are two completely different situations. And if you can't see the difference, I don't know what to tell you. This isn't about protecting your friend from a drug charge. This is about a missing woman whose life might depend on information you have. And you're worried about street code? Make it make sense. But it gets worse. Her friend was so convinced Gabby needed to call police that she ended their entire friendship over it. Think about that. Your best friend is willing to cut you off completely because she thinks what you know is that important. And Gabby still didn't call. Not until weeks later when people started accusing her online of being involved. Now, Gabby says when she finally did contact police, they told her the information was useless because Keon was already in custody. And okay, maybe that's true. Maybe by that point, they already knew everything they needed to know. But here's what bothers me. You didn't even try. You waited until the internet came for you, and then you decided to cover your ass. And speaking of her friend, we need to talk about her friend. Because her friend was doing some very interesting things while Gabby was staying silent.
Kada and my friend live on the same block, so that's how he probably started witnessing her or seeing her. And he began to ask my best friend questions about her. But I ended up finding out before he, did what he did to Kada, he actually called my best friend and he asked her, where was Kada located? Where's her house? What do you know about her? Is she a cool girl? Does she have a boyfriend? He asked her all types of stuff like that about Kada before he kidnapped her. And then once it was discovered that he did, he called my best friend and told her, don't tell anybody about what he asked. Every time the girl was walking, except before she had her dog, she had her headphones in.
Kada, she always, just walking around the neighborhood with her dog and stuff. So I'm just going to show you guys the area and, where he knows of the block. So this is, if you go down this block, this is Kada Scott's block more so, but this block right here is the block that he will always come on to sell me and my friend rugs. My friend lives down there. Kada lives down here. So honestly, I think I'm just gonna go down Kada's block. But Kada, her house is actually on this side, guys. But yeah, her house is on this side. Maybe this. No. I don't know, guys. I know Kada lives on this block though. She lives behind my best friend's house. My best friend grew up with her little sister. Her little sister name is. Now I'm just gonna be showing y'all the area where he is like always at and where he most likely first seen Kada, because that's where I always seen her. She used to walk her dog a lot around here. She has a little dog, so she would walk her dog from this block, and then once you go to the stop sign, you go that way. As you guys can see, the Liberty is right there. That's not where she would go. So I don't want anyone to be confused or screw things up. She did not go there. Go this way. Once you go this way, you walk straight down. Once you walk straight down, you'll get up near like the gas stations and stuff. And the gas stations is usually where all of the rug dealers will be located. When I get up there, I'm gonna show you specifically. But yeah, that's most likely like where she was going. So the more you walk up this area along the strip, this is where she would walk. This is the way you have to take to go to the poppy store. This is the gas station that all of the rug dealers come to. They all come here. They all be outside the store. If you drive past, you'll see it. Like, they really all be here. This is a picture of her up here. She always would come here. Everybody would come here to buy their wraps, all that. It's the store. But the store you could find him sitting outside of was right over here.
So that was Dee, Gabby's best friend, the one who was begging Gabby to call police. And can we just talk about how absolutely unhinged these videos are? Dee is out here walking through the neighborhood like she's giving a true crime tour. This is where Kada lives. This is where she walks her dog. This is the gas station where all the dealers hang out. This is the store she goes to. Like, Mum, why do you know Kada's entire routine? You said you grew up with her little sister, not Kada herself. So why are you so familiar with where this grown woman walks her dog every day? And notice she said Keon would come to that block to sell to her and Gabby. So now we've confirmed that both of these girls were his customers. They weren't just casual acquaintances who happened to know the same pharmacist. They were in regular business with this man for years. But here's where my spidey senses really start tingling. Dee made these videos and then deleted them. Why? What changed between posting them and taking them down? Was it because people started asking why she seemed to know so much about Kada's movements? Was it because she realized walking around pointing out where a murder victim used to go probably looks suspicious as hell? And remember, this is the same friend who was so adamant that Gabby needed to call police. The same friend who ended their friendship over it. The same friend who then went live on social media telling the whole story to thousands of people. So, she was okay with blasting Gabby's business to the internet, but Gabby wasn't supposed to talk to actual law enforcement. Girl, where? But we're not done yet. Because there's one piece of evidence that makes this whole situation even more suspicious. And I need you to look at this very carefully. Did you catch that? Let me read it to you in case you missed it. Dee texts Gabby. Bro, a girl is missing and dead. Not missing and I'm worried she might be dead. Not missing and I fear the worst. Dee said missing and dead, like it's a fact. Like she knows. And here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This text was sent before police announced they'd found a body, before the DNA confirmation, before the public knew anything about human remains being discovered at that school. So how did Dee know Kada was dead? Who told her? Did Gabby tell her? If so, how did Gabby know? Because if we're supposed to believe Gabby's story, that she barely knew anything, that she only talked to Keon for 29 seconds about Kada, and then 2 minutes to tell him she was missing, then where did this information come from? Let me paint you a picture of the timeline here. October 4th, Kada goes missing. October 9th, Dee tells Gabby that Kada is missing. They have a conversation about it. And at some point between October 9th and October 18th, before the body was found, Dee is texting Gabby saying, Kada is dead. Not missing, dead. And look at Gabby's response. Nope, I'm sorry I'm not. Talking to the cops. So your friend just told you, a woman is dead. Again, not missing, dead. And your response is to refuse to talk to police. For the second time. Even though you now apparently know she's not just missing, but actually gone. I'm not saying Gabby killed anyone. I'm not saying Dee killed anyone. What I am saying is that something about this timeline doesn't add up. Because the only people who would know a missing woman is dead before police announce it are the police themselves, the person who killed her, or someone that person told. So which one was it? How did these two girls have insider information that the rest of Philadelphia didn't have? And before y'all come at me saying, maybe they just assumed she was dead. Look at the text again. Dee didn't say, I think she might be dead, or it doesn't look good. She stated it as a fact. And Gabby didn't text back, saying, what do you mean dead? How do you know? She just said she's not talking to cops. Like this information wasn't news to her.
So people are saying that I felt as though I couldn't go to the authorities about the situation because they had already locked him up. Now, I did eventually go to the authorities about the information, and they told me that the information that I bought them was useless, that they couldn't use the information because it wouldn't help to lead finding Kada, and also because he was already in police custody, so there was nothing that they could do with my information. They also told me that days before, my friend did come in with the information, and they told her the exact same thing, that they cannot do anything with the information due to the fact that he is already in police custody, and that this information would not lead to finding Kada.
So now Gabby's saying that when she finally did go to the police, they told her the information was useless because Keon was already in custody. And okay, maybe that's true. Maybe by that point, they didn't need to know about a 29-second phone call from weeks earlier. But here's what she's not addressing. She's not explaining how her friend knew Kada was dead before the announcement. She's not explaining why she stayed silent for 2 weeks while hundreds of people searched. She's not explaining why it took the internet calling her out for her to finally contact authorities. She's just saying, the police said my info was useless, so there. Like that absolves her of the fact that she had information about a kidnapping and chose not to share it until she was being accused online. And you know what's interesting? After all this came out, after Aunt Bree started making accusations, after people started asking these questions, Gabby deleted her entire TikTok account. Everything. Gone. Wiped clean. Now, to be fair, I can understand wanting to log off when thousands of people are calling you a murderer's accomplice. Social media can get dark. People will find your address, your job, your mama's house. So I get the instinct to disappear. But here's the thing about timing. Gabby made those defense videos when Kada was still just missing. When maybe there was hope. When the story was still, girl is gone, suspect arrested. Let's pray she comes home. But the second that body was found, the second it became a murder investigation, the second Aunt Bree went live with her accusations. Gabby said, "You know what? I'm gonna head out." And look, innocent people delete social media all the time when things get too hot. But you know who else scrubs their digital footprint right after a body drops? People who suddenly realize their words might be used as evidence. I'm just saying. Let's hear what Aunt Bree had to say about all this after the body was found.
Gabby is best friends with him. Now, it was a little girl on TikTok that everybody worked to my attention when she was talking about him and how she knew him. Now, her best friend is the girl who gave me the info. And she lied to me that she didn't know. She told me she didn't know him before. But apparently the girl was on there talking about Kada, how she walks her dog and, things like that. And they, all above. So that's stalker. That's a stalker. I said, she was jealous. I said, she was having fucking Keon. I said, and she knew what Keon was about to do to Kada. Because Keon asked her, hush, because Keon asked her, where did Kada live at? Where did she work at? And all the above. Now, he knew Kada already. It's not a mystery he didn't know Kada. He definitely knows Kada. I want y'all to understand, it was never that he was a stranger to Kada. He knew Kada. He knew who Kada was as a person. Kada knew him as a person. But it was not supposed to go to this level because Kada was not in a relationship with him. She was the girl that gave me the jewels. She told her best friend that was talking about Kada on live, she needs to call the police and tell the police what she knows. The girl was like, I'm not telling anybody anything. So apparently the girl said that Keon told Gabby that what he did with Kada, and don't tell nobody where Kada was. He asking about where Kada lived at and where she lived at and where she worked at. Because Kim didn't play that nobody know where she lived at. So that's how I know for a fact he didn't know where she lived at. So the girl told, and Gabby promised not to say nothing about what he did to Kada. So Gabby goes to school in Maryland. So the girl was talking about that. I had to go see her live on TikTok. Some people say that, I don't know. Hey.
So Aunt Bree is making some serious accusations here. She's saying Gabby wasn't just a casual friend of Keon's. She's saying Gabby was romantically involved with him. That Gabby was jealous of Kada. That Gabby gave Keon information about where Kada lived and worked, knowing what he planned to do. And most damning of all, she's claiming that Keon told Gabby what he did to Kada and where she was. And Gabby promised to stay silent. Now, are these accusations proven? No. Has anyone been charged as an accomplice? Not yet. But here's what we do know as confirmed facts. Keon called Gabby asking about Kada before October 4th. Gabby admits this. 29 seconds. Kada went missing October 4th. Gabby called Keon on October 9th to tell him Kada was missing. 2 minutes, then the phone disconnected. Gabby refused to call police, even when her best friend begged her to. She admits this too. Text messages show Dee telling Gabby that Kada was dead before any public announcement of a body being found. Gabby didn't contact police until weeks later after being accused online. After the body was found and accusations started flying, Gabby deleted her entire social media presence. Those are facts. Everything else is speculation. But these facts create a picture that's hard to ignore. And they raise questions that deserve answers. How did Dee know Kada was dead? Who told her? Did Gabby tell her? If so, how did Gabby know? Why did Gabby wait so long to come forward with information about a kidnapping? Why did she only contact police after being publicly accused? And why did she delete everything once the case became a murder investigation? I'm not saying I know the answers. I'm saying these are questions that a lot of people are asking. And so far, no one's giving answers that make sense. After the body was found, police held another press conference. This time, they had new charges for Keon King. And the details they revealed? They paint a picture of just how much planning went into this. Let's hear what they found.
Teslowski will be, at this time, lead counsel in the prosecution of Keon King and has been working tirelessly on every aspect of the case, including obtaining a warrant that contains additional charges. Those charges include arson, causing catastrophe, conspiracy, unauthorized use of an automobile, receiving stolen property, reckless endangerment of another person, tampering with evidence. We are not done, but this is a significant development in the prosecution itself, and obviously there have been other developments already reported over the weekend in the case. It is my pleasure to call forward Ashley Tuzlowski, who does about as good a job as anyone I've ever seen.
Thank you. As of last night, our office approved charges, as the DA just said, of arson, causing catastrophe, conspiracy, unauthorized use of an automobile, tampering with evidence, recklessly endangering another person, and receipt of stolen property. Those charges are in reference to the burning of a vehicle. That vehicle is a 2008 black Hyundai Accent. That vehicle first entered our radar last week. Investigators received a tip that there was a vehicle burning and that vehicle had some connection to this case. At the time last week, when investigators went to the location where the vehicle was burned, that vehicle was no longer there. It had already been towed, compacted, and was at a junkyard. This weekend, we recovered additional evidence, including video evidence that confirms that this vehicle, we believe, is the vehicle that Mr. Keon King used to move Ms. Scott. We recovered video out from near the Ada Lewis Middle School, where our search and the investigator search has been focused. There's a rec center directly next to that school. Video evidence was recovered from that rec center, and we are now able to say that this Hyundai Accent was on location at all of the times we're looking at all of the pertinent points in the investigation. That vehicle was stolen on October 3rd from the area of 6600 Sprague Street. We believe that vehicle is the vehicle that was used in this case. That vehicle was then on scene at that rec center, which ultimately, as we all know, is where we found Ms. Scott's human remains. Video evidence indicates it was on location. Video evidence then indicates it leaves the location. It is burned on October 7th. It was located at the 2300 block of 74th Avenue. When this new video evidence was uncovered this weekend, investigators from the homicide unit cross-referenced all of this information with the cell phone evidence that we had already gained and we had already been using in terms of the kidnapping case and other charges. What I can share is that the cell phone evidence, the call detail records, and timing advance data as it pertains to Keon King's mobile device puts him at all of the locations that we're talking about. It's on scene when the Hyundai Accent is there at the recreation center. It is on scene when the vehicle is burned. Based on that, last night I approved those charges, and as the DA said, we should have more information in terms of bail and a preliminary hearing date, hopefully this afternoon or certainly by tomorrow.
All right, at this time we will go to questions. I would say this, as I look at this list, this is about as long a list of journalists as I've seen in quite some time. So a couple of ground rules. Please try to confine your questions to one or two. If there's additional follow-up, we can try to address that later, just so we can give everyone their opportunity. Number two, these questions I'm going to ask you out of respect for the family who are present here should be on the topic of today's press conference, please. And that's not the first time I've requested it, and I'm sure that you understand why. And to the extent that you can confine them to the topics we are addressing today, please understand this is an ever-evolving, developing situation, both in terms of investigation and prosecution. There are things that we know today that we cannot tell you. And we cannot tell you for a variety of reasons. The integrity of the investigation, safety, the trauma that the family is dealing with is not best handled by finding things out for the first time in the media. So we will try to be as transparent and open as we can, consistent with those obligations and consistent with the purpose of this press conference, which is to respect the family's needs and wishes. Channel 3 CBS, I see Joe Holden and Josh Sanders.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Riley's office, Mr. Krasner. First, can you give us any more information about the tip that leads police back to Ada Lewis? Secondly, how does she really meet Keon King, if you know? And then third, have there been any conversations about how King is out again after multiple, are you retraining people in your staff?
All right, so that's three questions. Let me address the third one. We are always trying to do better. We have already acknowledged, and I'll acknowledge again, we could have done better with respect to one or more of the decisions that were made in a case that was otherwise handled well. And we are looking at a variety of different options that I think are appropriate for the lessons that we have learned in this case. As for your other two questions, I'm going to ask Ashley Tuzlowski to come forward to answer them for you.
So in terms of your first question about the tip, what I can share is that obviously initially we received a tip to go to a meeting last week. We received a tip to go to the Ada Lewis Middle School. Investigators went, did a thorough search. Essentially what the new tip was this weekend was go back. It was go back, she's there, look again, and they did give more specific details in terms of where to look. And ultimately that is what led us to her. I'm not going to say how. Obviously, we are investigating the tip, and we'll continue to do that, but the tip was more specific than the first. It was very specific to go back, and it was more specific in terms of where to look, and that is what the police did. And I'm sorry, your second question was? How do they know each other? I'm still not going to comment on that. It's something that is actively being investigated. Obviously, they knew each other to some extent. We believe in terms of maybe there was some cell phone communication, obviously. But other than that, I'm not going to comment in terms of how they know each other. That's something that's still, or where they met or how long they knew each other, because that is something that's still being investigated.
Channel 6 ABC, Tarhanda Thomas. Did I pronounce? Oh, my apologies. You're Channel 3 CBS as well? Yes, sir. Of course, yeah.
Two follow-up questions. You mentioned lessons learned. I wonder if you can give the specifics of those lessons that you're always learned from this. And my second question is this tipster having a relationship?
All right. So we're now getting into 5 questions from one station, but let me see what I can do for you. All right. I'm not going to get into all of the specifics, other than to say that we have already discussed in this office the value that we have seen for certain kinds of cases in specialization. It's something that we have done before in changing the way things have been done literally for decades in this office. I'll leave my comment on that point there. Your second question again, sir?
The tipster, are they related to Keon King?
When you say the tipster, you're speaking of the tipster for the...
The person who followed up with the tip and said go back and gave more details and to be specific. Is this a family member of Keon King or someone related to Keon King?
I think I know what the answer is going to be, but let me check with Ashley Tuzlowski. Well, that answer is a little different than I expected. The answer is we don't know, and we are investigating it at this time. All right. Taronda, I apologize for mispronouncing.
I want to make sure a point of clarification. Has the medical examiner officially confirmed that this is Kada Scott, made a positive identification? And then my second question is, going back to the case in January related to this, who withdrew the charges? Was it something that the PA's office did, the judge? Make that clarification.
So as for your first question, it has been confirmed that these are the human remains of Kada Scott, and that has been confirmed by DNA. I believe that's also been reported. There was some erroneous reporting that it was quick DNA. It was actually not quick DNA, it was the regular DNA. So that is resolved. And I'm sorry, your second question?
The second question was about the withdrawal of the charges with the January case. Who decided to withdraw those cases? Was it something done by the judge, the attorney's office? And just as it relates to the witness not showing up, would it have been sufficient if that witness, for instance, gave a statement to police that was on video? Was that something that was there and not able to be used?
So this, Ms. Thomas, this is something we addressed previously. I'll go over it again in summary form. But this is a situation in which there were actually 2 witnesses. There was a complainant, there was an eyewitness. There were good efforts to have the case prepared, to contact them, to speak to them. There were good efforts to subpoena them. Nothing is perfect in this life, but that was all handled well. The case was marked must be tried by a judge at the first listing when these witnesses did not appear. Neither one of them appeared for either one of these 2 listings. That is a judicial decision. It is not our decision. And then on the second occasion, when these two witnesses did not appear again, the attorney who was handling this case was faced with having the case either thrown out or withdrawn. There are certain strategic reasons why it can be better to have it withdrawn. But understand, when a judge of a particular level, and here it's the municipal court, rules that this is a must-be-tried case, that, under the law as it exists, requires the second judge to throw it out if the case is not ready to be tried. As we have indicated before, I do believe that there is a way this could have been presented without those witnesses. The buck stops here. That is on me, that it was not handled in that fashion. But I also believe, as I've said before, that it's a tough situation, especially in domestic cases, when you have a defendant out of custody who's going to come in and out of the courthouse doors just like those witnesses. All right.
So I don't know who knows. I was on DI's live earlier, but it's another body out there. Spirit showed me. I showed the live. They better go get that body. Then the bones showed up, and the spirit is in the picture, and I had a download. So for those detectives and cops, go get that body. I'm handling business, but I'm telling you, when I tell y'all to do something, hopefully they start listening, you know? You better pay attention. You better recognize there's another body out there. There's two more bodies out there, matter of fact. And one was right there where Kate was found. And she made sure her spirit was resonating. It's a Spanish girl. And, yeah. But it'll show up eventually, I'm sure. And they'll get the tip for that, too.
All right, so let me make sure I understand what we just heard. Keon stole a car the day before Kada went missing, used that stolen car to move her body, then burned the car 3 days later to destroy evidence. His cell phone pinged at every single location. The recreation center where her body was found. The place where the car was burned. Everywhere. And the car got compacted at a junkyard before investigators could examine it, which is either the worst luck or the best planning, depending on how you look at it. The DA is out here saying, we could have done better about letting Keon walk free after kidnapping someone earlier that year. You think? The man had a whole pattern of kidnapping women, and you'll let him post $20,000 and bounce like he was paying a parking ticket. And now there's a dead girl whose family is planning a funeral instead of a homecoming. But sure, we could have done better. That's one way to put it. And Aunt Brie? She's saying there are more bodies out there. 2 more to be exact. One near where Kada was found. Now, is she right? I don't know, but she was right about some things. The location, the dreadlocks, the involvement of multiple people. So, maybe we shouldn't dismiss her so quickly. But let's get back to Gabby and Dee, because this is where I need to say what everyone's thinking. These 2 girls knew their supplier, and let's be real, that's what he was, for years. He calls asking about a woman's address. That woman goes missing. They somehow know she's dead before the police announce it. And their response is silence. Not calling police, not coming forward. Just sitting on that information while Kada's family is out here searching, crying, begging for tips. And when I say they knew she was dead, I don't mean they suspected it. I mean Dee texted Gabby saying, a girl is missing and dead, before there was a body. That's not a guess. That's insider information. And instead of asking, how do you know? Or, what do you mean dead? Gabby just says she's not talking to cops. Let me tell you something. There's a difference between minding your business and being complicit. There's a difference between not snitching on your homie who's doing their thing, and staying quiet while a killer walks free. And if you can't see that a difference, then congratulations, you're part of the problem. Because here's what kills me, and I mean this with my whole chest. Gabby wants us to believe she's some kind of street soldier who doesn't break code. But the second the internet came for her, she folded like a lawn chair and called the police anyway. So it wasn't really about principles, was it? It was about not wanting to get involved until your name was on the line. It was about self-preservation, not loyalty. ND? Walking around the neighborhood like she's giving a TMC tour, pointing out where Kada walks her dog, where she shops, what route she takes. Girl, why do you know this woman's entire routine? Y'all grew up with her little sister, not her. So why are you so familiar with a grown woman's daily schedule? And why did you delete those videos after people started asking that exact question? I'm not saying these girls killed Kada. The police haven't charged them with anything. But what I am saying is they had information that could have helped, and they chose to keep it to themselves. They had pieces of a puzzle that investigators needed, and they decided those pieces weren't important enough to share. And now, a 23-year-old woman is dead, and her family has to live with the fact that maybe, if someone had spoken up sooner, this could have ended differently. Was Gabby jealous, like Aunt Bree said? I don't know. Was she romantically involved with Keon? I don't know. Did he tell her what he did and where Kada was? I don't know. But what I do know is that her behavior after the fact doesn't look good. Staying silent, deleting her accounts, only coming forward when accused. That's not the behavior of someone who has nothing to hide. That's the behavior of someone who knows they fumbled and is trying to do damage control. And before you'll come at me saying I'm being too hard on her, let me ask you this. If it was your daughter missing, your sister, your friend, and someone out there had information that could help but refused to share it because of street code, how would you feel? Would you be understanding? Or would you be pissed that someone valued their principles more than your loved one's life? Yeah, that's what I thought. Kada Scott deserved better. She deserved to come home. She deserved to keep building her business, living her life. She deserved for the justice system not to let her kidnapper walk free on a low bail. She deserved for people who had information to actually use it instead of sitting on it. And now her family has to bury her. They have to process the fact that she's gone. They have to live with answers they never wanted, but at least now have. The community came together, searched for her, left flowers at that abandoned school. They showed up in a way that mattered. But the people who could have spoken up when it counted, they stayed quiet. And that's something they're gonna have to live with for the rest of their lives. Rest in peace, Kada Scott. Your community won't forget you. And to everyone watching this, if you have information about a crime, especially a violent one where someone's life is in danger, call the police. I don't care about street code. I don't care about not snitching. I don't care about your relationship with the suspect. A human life is worth more than your reputation. Period.